got a call from Phil Spector. I got a call from Andy Feynman. In this case, I got a call from her then husband, Kenny Dennis, called Nina. My answering service. Remember I said my answering service is called Nina?
I didn't catch the name. Nina. Okay.
Call Nina is my answering service. Now I've got an office set up. I was representing Phil, and I got an office. So now I'm at my first office at 328 South Beverly Drive, where I had.
Well, you said 315 earlier. Is it?
315 is where I was when I got the call of Phil Spector.
Okay.
That was 1965.
Oh, okay.
Previous to that, I was at 204 South Beverly Drive for 2 years, a little office on my own. And previous to that, I was at 328 South Beverly Drive, where that was the first thing. I had a space for services arrangement. I had a little office about the size of this, with a desk, no pull-up chairs, there wasn't room, that I shared with another lawyer. We shared the desk.
You shared a desk with another lawyer.
Right. Oh, no, that was at 204. 315, at 328, I was working space for services with a guy named Lou Most. He was not a personal injury lawyer, insurance lawyer. He was an insurance lawyer. He went after insurance companies, and so I would render services for him, and he would give me office space and pay me $25 a court appearance. But I was free to continue my music, which I did. Went on the road when I had to go on the road.
So you mean on the road as a musician?
Yeah. I was doing both. When I was at 204 South Beverly Drive, I was doing both. When I was at 315 South Beverly Drive, I was doing both. So now I'm at 315 South Beverly Drive, and they call my answering service, called Nina. And so Kenny Dennis, who was then Nancy Wilson's husband, said, I'd like to come in and see you. We're dissatisfied with what's happening with her career. And so he came in, and they asked me to manage Nancy, along with my practice. So I started managing her, I might say very successfully.
So tell me about that, because I didn't know that you were managing her.
Yeah, I managed two people.
You managed who's the other person?
The checkmates.
Well, I remember the checkmates, certainly. And we'll come back to the checkmates. But for Nancy Wilson, at the time that you got this call, and she was having trouble, they didn't like the direction of her career, and they asked if you could manage her. What was the state of her career at that time? And I mean, was she a big deal at this point?
No, she was an opening act.
She was an opening act for bands or acts like who? Do you remember?
No, but I don't remember exactly. She was an opening act, and she was signed to Capitol Records. She had some terrific records, but nothing spectacular was happening. So
you never managed any other acts before that,
no.
And other than the Checkmates, never managed any acts?
That came after.
Yeah, no, I'm saying other than the Checkmates, you never managed anybody since. So what qualified you to manage a band, and why did you think you could do it, and why did they think you could do it, and then how successful was that for Nancy Wilson?
It was very successful. From an opening act, she became a headliner. She was having hit records. I was having her on all of the major variety television shows. She had all of a sudden a big career.
Why, since you established a successful artist, you took her from an opening act into a major, was she an international success or national success? I mean, she wasn't up there with Elvis. But she was big.
No, she's not up there with Elvis, but she was doing really well. She was having hit records, and she was, I say, she was opening act. Now I got her, and Gene Schwab was a PR person, and I got her into the Greek Theater. She headlined for 7 nights. Nobody up to that point ever headlined the
That's
Greek Theater at 7 nights.
okay. That's pretty cool.
And that's
How
where
is
I met
it?
Doris.
So, if you had that sort of success as a manager, why is it you didn't stick with being a manager and you went back to, or not back to, but you stuck with practicing law?
Uh, I didn't like the idea of being a manager. I didn't like the idea of being a gopher in a way. I didn't like the idea of do this, do that, tell him that, tell him this. I don't want to do that. How come you're not ready yet, Nancy? Why aren't you ready yet? We got to be there. We got to do that. I didn't like it. I didn't like that idea.
Okay. So we're still, though, with Nancy Wilson, we're still in the 1950s. At some point, you decided, but I remember you representing the Checkmates when I was alive, so that was in the 60s. So that came many years later.
Not many years, not 2 years, because it was Nancy who told me about the Checkmates. They were an opening act. Oh, that's what sealed my fate as being a manager. They were an opening act at the Pussycat A Go-Go, making $700 a week.
Where was the Pussycat A Go-Go?
In Vegas.
Okay.
In Vegas. I went in there. I saw them. You'll relate to this story. I said they're incredible. They don't read music, and they're doing the hits better than the people who were doing. They were doing You've Lost That Feeling better than the Checkmates were doing it.
Better than the Righteous Brothers.
Righteous Brothers. Sorry. They were incredible. So.
Hang on, because of the chiming. All right, go ahead.
So they were better. So I had two ideas. Idea one was Phil Spector at that time was not active in the business. He was disgusted because he had this record with Ike and Tina Turner, River Deep Mountain High, that was a success all over the world and not in the United States. And he said, I'm through. So I said, this is ideal for Phil. This group is ideal. So I talked Phil into coming with me to Vegas to go to see the Checkmates. He was knocked out with them. Then I went to Jerry Moss at A&M Records. And
he was the M in A&M.
Yeah. And then he agreed to sign them to A&M Records. Got Phil Spector to produce the record. He produced the record, which was a major hit called Black Pearl.
Was that the one? Because I remember the song Sunny. Was it on that?
That's one of the things that Sonny Charles sang. But the big hit was called Black Pearl.
Okay.
That Phil was a co-writer on with two other people that he brought in. So now they're on A&M Records. I get them on a big tour on the Herbie Alpert and the Tijuana Brass tour as the opening act. I get them into New York at the Copacabana as the opening act for Don Rickles. They're a smash everywhere. They're making. Before that, I bring in Jimmy Haskell, and I said, Jimmy, these guys can't read. Let's write a brass section. No saxes. Just 8 brass. I want to put 8 brass behind them. They opened in Vegas at I can't remember if it was the Sahara or the Sands. The next night I had lines around the block. I had Sammy Davis calling me. Can I get in? I had Elvis calling. Can we get in?
So you got calls from the Rat Pack. Sammy Davis Jr. and Elvis called you?
Yeah.
You spoke to them directly?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But I know they called to get. I got them in. Okay. They were what previously was Louis Prima and Keely Smith.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, Louis Prima and Keely Smith were the act in Vegas, where the lines around. The show was at 4 a.m. You couldn't get in.
Well, okay.
Because their first show was like at midnight.
Okay.
Then there'd be a 2 o'clock show and a 4 o'clock show. And all the shows would be filled. So now they're a smash, okay? So I get them on. They got now a hit record. They're on the Herb Alpert tour. They're opening for Don Rickles at the Copacabana. And then they're on the Hollywood Palace television show. And I go to the Hollywood Palace in Hollywood, and Bobby Stevens, the purported leader, says, I don't need Phil Spector to produce the things. I can do that. And the next thing was Phil Spector saying, I don't need any of them records. We'll put out the records ourselves. And then the next thing he said was, I don't need the PR people. Finally, I said, and you don't need me.
Really?
And I said, that's
so that was the end of your manager career,
that was
basically.
It. I said, I don't want no more.
So at some point, I remember you telling this story, and we'll end with this because it's we're after 4. But at some point, you told the story of what compelled you to. You were playing music, you were practicing law, and at some point, you decided I have to choose. So
right.
Tell me about that moment.
Well, it was an easy moment. I was working day and night. I had a little Alfa Romeo sports car. Your mother and I, we were living in Van Nuys, and I fell asleep on the driving home. And I said, I better make a decision.
You fell asleep driving home while you were driving? Been there, done that. Okay, well, I think that let's wrap that for now. Although this one story I like because we'll talk about how you met Doris later. But since you mentioned my mom, just for a note, that was an interesting story. How you met my mom? She was passing out flyers or something for one of your shows.
I have a sign there. Jay Cooper and his orchestra.
Yeah, I know the sign. Okay,
that sign is from. During the summers, I and some buddies, we would take somewhere around April, we would drive out of Chicago, drive up to Wisconsin and Michigan, and stop in every resort and say, "Do you need a band for the summer? Do you need a band for the summer?"
Okay.
And one of the times was, yes, Barron's Resort in South Haven, Michigan. Yeah, we need a band for the summer. Great. So 4 of us. That was Jay Cooper and his orchestra, 4 of us.
It's a small orchestra.
Yeah, we were playing at that restaurant, and so I was standing outside, and I heard somebody. There was a car was driving by with loudspeaker on it, and come to Barron's Resort. It features I forget the group, not the Barron. What was the name of the group? I'll think of. I can't remember the name of the group. Featuring the. Jay Cooper and his orchestra. So I walked over to the car. That's where I met your mother.
That's really funny. Okay, well, we'll stop for now. And